Hey there, fellow history enthusiasts. If you're enjoying this journey back in time, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. It's always great to hear from you. Imagine for a moment the gentle rhythm of life in ancient Harappa, a bustling city in the Indus Valley during the 3rd millennium BCE. Beyond the myths that often shroud this lost world, we turn our gaze to the everyday artisans who shaped not just clay, but the very fabric of society, the potters. In the soft glow of the morning sun, these skilled workers moved through their days with a quiet grace, their hands dancing over moist earth in simple mudbrick workshops. Picture them clad in loose tunics of woven fabric, the kind that whispered against the skin with each motion as they coaxed vessels from the humble soil. This is the story of their craft, a tale woven with the threads of sensory serenity, where the squish of cool clay between fingers and the faint whisper of dusty air carried the weight of an entire civilization's daily rhythm. The air in those workshops hung heavy with a fine, earthy dust, particles that danced lazily in the light filtering through narrow openings in the mudbrick walls. It was a place of subtle sounds, the soft thud of a potter's foot pressing the wheel, the gentle slurp as water mixed with clay, creating a paste that yielded so easily to touch. Each potter, anonymous in the annals of time, would begin their work at dawn, when the world was still wrapped in a calming hush. Their tunics, dyed in earthy tones of ochre and brown, provided a modest shield against the day's growing warmth, the fabric brushing softly against their arms as they leaned into their tasks. The clay itself was a marvel, sourced from the riverbanks nearby, its cool, slick texture offering a tactile comfort that soothed the soul. As fingers pressed and molded, the material yielded with a satisfying squelch, forming pots that would hold grains, store water, or carry the scents of spices in trade. In Harappa, the potter's life was one of rhythmic repetition, a dance that echoed the steady flow of the Indus River itself. These artisans worked in clusters, their workshops nestled among the city's orderly streets, far from the grander structures that spoke of urban life. Here, in these modest spaces, the air was always tinged with the faint, grounding scent of wet earth and baked clay, an aroma that lingered like a whispered secret. The process began with the gathering of clay, carried in baskets that bumped rhythmically against the workers' sides as they returned from the river. Once inside, the potters would knead the material, their hands sinking into its cool depths, feeling the grains shift and settle under pressure. It was a sensory symphony. The cool slip of mud against warm skin, the faint grit that added texture to each movement, and the soft, steady breath of the wind rustling through the workshop's thatched roof. The importance of their craft cannot be overstated, for in this ancient world, pottery was the silent guardian of daily existence. These vessels, crafted with such meticulous care, preserved food against the harsh sun, carried water through arid days, and facilitated the exchange of goods that bound communities together. Imagine the satisfaction of shaping a large storage jar, its curves emerging smoothly under expert hands, destined to hold the harvest's bounty. The potter's work ensured that families could store their lentils and grains without worry. The pot's even walls and sturdy bases, a testament to their skill. Subtle wit lay in the irony of it all. While kings and leaders might have commanded attention, it was the potter's humble creations that truly sustained life, their vessels quietly outlasting the fleeting moments of power. As the day progressed, the workshops filled with the warm hum of activity, the air growing slightly heavier with the scent of drying clay. Potters would pause occasionally, wiping their hands on their tunics, leaving faint streaks of earth that told stories of their labor. The wheel turned with a soothing, repetitive creak, a sound that blended into the background like a lullaby, inviting a sense of peace. Each piece was fired in simple kilns, where the crackle of flames provided a gentle underscore to the day's work. The heat radiated softly, warming the air without overwhelming it, and the resulting pottery emerged with a smooth, matte finish that spoke of endurance. These artisans, dressed in their practical tunics, moved with an unhurried elegance, their focus unwavering as they ensured every pot was perfectly balanced, every rim evenly shaped. Yet, amid this serene routine, there lies a quiet mystery that adds a layer of intrigue to the potter's story. The unrecorded names of those who toiled so diligently in the vast archaeological records of Harappa, from sites like Mohenjo-Daro and the excavations at Harappa itself. We find no inscriptions bearing the personal marks of these craftsmen. No clay seals whisper their identities. No tablets etch their lineages into history. It's as if the potters themselves chose anonymity, their hands leaving only the echoes of their touch on the artifacts we unearth today. This enigma, drawn from the careful reports of scholars like those from the Archaeological Survey of India, invites us to ponder the faces behind the craft. Who were they? Perhaps a family line of masters, passing down techniques through generations, their tunics worn thin from years of the same gentle motions. The mystery deepens when we consider the uniformity of their work, pots identical in form and function, suggesting a shared knowledge that transcended individual egos. Sensory details bring this world alive. The cool, damp feel of freshly dug clay, its earthy aroma mingling with the dry dust that settled on everything. Potters might have hummed softly to themselves as they worked, the vibration of their voices adding a melodic layer to the wheel's turn. The tunics they wore, lightweight and breathable, allowed for easy movement, the fabric swaying with each lean and press. In the evenings, as the sun dipped low, the workshops cooled, and the potters would clean their tools with water from clay jars, the liquid splashing softly, carrying away the day's residues. It was a cycle as predictable as the seasons, each pot a link in the chain of survival. The craft's significance extended beyond mere utility. the social tapestry of Harappa. Pottery facilitated trade, with vessels traveling far along ancient routes, carrying goods that sustained distant settlements. The potters' workshops, simple mudbrick structures with earthen floors smoothed by countless footsteps, stood as humble monuments to innovation. Here, in the quiet corners of the city, away from the broader urban expanse, these artisans honed techniques that archaeologists have pieced together from fragments found in sites like Harappa's citadel area. Reports from excavations, such as those conducted in the early 20th century by Sir John Marshall and later teams, reveal the precision of their work pots with intricate designs, though never ostentatious, reflecting a society that valued functionality above all. As we immerse ourselves in this calming narrative, let the image of a potter at work lull you into reflection. Feel the weight of the clay, hear the subtle sounds, and sense the dusty air that enveloped their world. Their tunics, practical and unadorned, symbolized a life dedicated to the essentials, a subtle wit in their choice to remain in the background, while their creations took center stage. And though we may never know their names, their legacy endures in the artifacts that whisper stories of resilience and ingenuity. To expand upon this, consider the variety of sensory experiences in their daily routine. The initial gathering of clay involved wading into the river's edge, the water cool against bare feet, its gentle current providing a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the sun. Back in the workshop, the mixing of clay with water created a slurry that glistened under the light, its surface rippling like a miniature river. The firing process brought new sensations, the rising heat that made the air shimmer, the faint scent of smoke that added a woody note to the earthiness. Each pot, once complete, was handled with care, its smooth surface cool to the touch, ready to serve its purpose. In historical examples, like those from the Harappan sites, we see evidence of advanced techniques, such as the use of the fast wheel, which allowed for the creation of symmetrical forms. This innovation, inferred from the uniformity of pottery shards, highlights the potter's adaptability, their hands adapting to new methods while maintaining tradition. The mystery of their unrecorded identities only grows, as no personal seals or markings have been found, leaving us to wonder if they preferred it that way, their craft speaking for them in silence. As we conclude this gentle exploration, remember that the potter's life in ancient Harappa was a testament to the quiet power of creation. And as we transition to the next chapter, where we'll delve into other aspects of this fascinating civilization, let this story linger like a soothing dream, inviting you to rest and reflect in the soft glow of a dawn that painted the ancient plains in hues of rose and amber. The city of Harappa stirred awake like a great beast emerging from slumber. The air carried the earthy scent of sun-baked bricks and distant monsoon rains, mingling with the faint rustle of palm leaves swaying in a gentle breeze. Here, amidst the orderly expanse of the Indus Valley, planners moved with quiet purpose, their simple tunics of woven cotton fluttering lightly against their skin. These were the unseen architects of a world long past, their days dedicated to the harmonious shaping of stone and soil into a tapestry of urban grace. Imagine them now, these stewards of order, standing on a slight rise, overlooking the grid of streets that stretched out like threads in a vast loom. Their tunics, dyed in earthy tones of ochre and clay, hung loosely, allowing the cool morning air to brush against their arms as they conferred in low, measured voices. One might hold a length of cord, knotted at intervals for measuring, while another traced lines in the dust with a wooden stake. The precision of their work was a marvel, born not from haste, but from a deep, intuitive rhythm that echoed the steady pulse of the river nearby. The Indus flowed on, its waters murmuring secrets of fertility and renewal. As if whispering approval to the planners below, the city's layout unfolded in perfect grids, each block aligned with the cardinal points, a testament to foresight that modern eyes might envy. Streets intersected at right angles, wide enough for carts to traverse without congestion, their surfaces paved with baked bricks that absorbed the warmth of the day and released it gently in the evening cool. Drainage channels ran alongside, ingeniously sloped to carry away rainwater with barely a splash, preventing the muddy chaos that plagued less organized settlements. One could almost feel the satisfaction in the planners' steps as they paced these avenues, their sandals crunching softly on the fine gravel. The air filled with the subtle aroma of wild herbs crushed underfoot. In those tranquil hours, the planners oversaw the construction of great platforms and public spaces where communal life could flourish without discord. They directed laborers with nods and gestures, ensuring that every wall and foundation adhered to the invisible blueprint etched in their collective memory. The bricks, molded from the river's clay and fired under the sun's watchful eye, fit together like pieces of a puzzle, their edges smoothed by hands that knew the value of patience. A light wind might carry the scent of baking bread from nearby hearths, or the faint, sweet tang of flowering acacias, reminding all that this was a place of balance, where human endeavor aligned with nature's gentle cadence. Yet, for all its evident sophistication, the essence of Harappa's planning remained shrouded in a quiet mystery, one that lingers like a half-forgotten dream. No tablets or inscriptions have survived to reveal the methods of these early visionaries, leaving us to ponder how such intricate designs came to be. Perhaps they drew upon generations of oral traditions passed down under starlit skies, where elders spoke of alignments with the heavens and the rhythms of the floods. The absence of written records, lost to time's inexorable tide, adds a layer of enchantment to their story, as if the planners themselves preferred the subtlety of unspoken wisdom over the permanence of ink. One might imagine them pausing at dusk, gazing at the setting sun, their tunics catching the last golden rays and and sharing a knowing smile at the secrets they guarded so well. The heart of this urban symphony lay in its functional beauty, where every element served a purpose. Without ostentation, granaries rose on sturdy platforms, their walls thick and cool, designed to preserve harvests against the whims of weather. The planners ensured that these structures were placed at the city's edges, allowing easy access while maintaining the flow of daily life in the central wards. Water channels, carved with meticulous care, fed public wells and baths, where the soft splash of water echoed like a lullaby, inviting respite from the day's warmth. The air around these features carried a fresh, mineral scent, mingling with the distant rustle of reeds along the riverbanks, creating a sensory harmony that soothed the spirit. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm veil over the scene, the planners moved to inspect the residential blocks, where uniform houses stood in neat rows. Each dwelling was oriented to catch the prevailing winds, their doorways framed by simple lintels that framed views of the street beyond. The planners' tunics, now dusted with the fine silt of the plains, swayed with their movements, a subtle reminder of the earth's enduring presence. They checked the alignment of walls, ensuring that no structure encroached upon the pathways, their work guided by an innate sense of equity and flow. In this way, Harappa became a living entity, its parts interconnected like the veins in a leaf, pulsing with the quiet energy of collective well-being. One could almost hear the soft hum of activity as laborers shaped the bricks, their tools tapping rhythmically against the clay, while birds called from the treetops in a melody that blended with the planner's murmurs. The scent of sun-warmed stone and the occasional waft of wild jasmine created an atmosphere of serene productivity, where time seemed to unfold at a measured pace. These moments held a subtle wit, for in their unassuming diligence, the planners outwitted the chaos of the natural world, crafting a refuge that anticipated needs before they arose. It was as if the city whispered its own story, a narrative of foresight wrapped in the everyday. Deeper into the day, as shadows lengthened and the air grew fragrant with the evening's cooling breath, the planners turned their attention to the broader vistas. From atop a low mound, they surveyed the defensive walls and gateways, not as barriers of conflict, but as guardians of harmony, their ramparts blending seamlessly with the landscape. The wind carried the sound of distant chimes, perhaps from simple ornaments hung in the breeze, adding a playful note to the scene. Here, the mystery of their planning deepened. How did they envision such cohesion without the tools of measurement we take for granted? Archaeological digs at sites like Mohenjo-Daro echo these wonders, revealing similar grids and systems that speak of a shared knowledge, yet leave the origins veiled in intrigue. In the fading light, the planners gathered their cords and stakes, their tunics now soft with the day's dust, and shared a moment of quiet reflection. The palm leaves rustled overhead, their whispers like a gentle admonition against haste, while the earthy scents of the soil rose to meet the twilight. It was a world built on intuition and observation, where the mystery of lost records only enhanced the allure, inviting us to imagine the untold stories etched in every brick. As the stars began to twinkle above, casting a soft glow over the grid of streets, one might feel a sense of peaceful transition from the ordered realm of planning to the quieter corners of daily life that await exploration elsewhere. For in the tapestry of Harappa, each thread leads to another, weaving a story that continues beyond the horizon. In the soft glow of a Harappan dawn, where the ancient rivers whisper mingled with the first light filtering through woven reed mats, the potters of Mohenjo-Daro stirred from their simple dwellings, clad in loose tunics of coarse linen, dyed in earthy hues from crushed minerals. They moved with a quiet rhythm toward their workshops. These were modest spaces, nestled along the quieter edges of the bustling settlement, where the air hung thick with the familiar scent of damp clay and sun-warmed earth. Here, amid the gentle hum of daily life, they began their work, shaping mysteries from the past into vessels that spoke of forgotten artistry. The potters, their hands calloused yet graceful, selected chunks of fine alluvial clay from baskets lined with dried leaves. This clay, drawn from the riverbanks of the Indus, carried the memory of ancient floods, its cool, pliable texture yielding easily under their fingers as they kneaded it on low wooden tables. A fine dust rose in lazy swirls, catching the light like specks of gold in the morning haze. One potter, an elder with a beard streaked in the red ochre he favored, hummed a tuneless melody, his voice a soothing murmur that blended with the soft scrape of tools against the clay. He dipped a brush made from bundled animal hairs into a shallow bowl of pigment. The liquid, a deep, velvety black derived from charred bones and mixed with water. With deliberate strokes, he traced geometric patterns onto the surface of a wide-mouthed jar, the brush whispering against the still damp clay like a secret shared in the quiet hours. These designs, intricate and precise, unfolded like whispers of a lost language, swirling motifs of interlocking circles, wavy lines that mimicked the river's flow, and stylized depictions of animals, peacocks with arched tails, humped bulls frozen in profile, emerged under the potter's steady hands. The ochre, ground from iron-rich rocks and brushed on in thin layers, added a warm, ruddy glow to the patterns, evoking the sunset over the Indus plains. As the pigment dried, it released a faint, earthy aroma, mingling with the musty scent of the clay and the subtle tang of the workshop's thatched roof. Woven from river reeds, the potters worked in silence, save for the occasional soft chuckle at a slip of the hand, a subtle wit in their acknowledgement that even the most skilled could not command perfection from the earth's gifts. Yet beneath this serene routine lay the enigma of these designs' true purposes, a mystery that has lingered through the millennia. In the 3rd millennium BCE, the Harappans crafted pottery not merely for utility, but as bearers of deeper meanings. Though what those meanings were remains veiled, the vessels, often fired in simple kilns heated by dried dung and wood, emerged with a glossy finish, their surfaces adorned in ways that suggested ritual or symbolic intent. Some scholars ponder if the geometric patterns served as talismans, perhaps warding off misfortune or invoking fertility for the crops along the river. Imagine the potter pausing, brush in hand, as he contemplated the curve of a spiral. Did it represent the eternal cycle of seasons, or the winding path of the stars above? The designs might have encoded trade routes, marking vessels destined for distant outposts along the Indus or beyond to the lands of Mesopotamia. Yet no clear records survive. The Harappans left no written explanations, only the silent testimony of their artifacts. As the day warmed, the potters continued, their tunics now dusted with fine particles of clay that sparkled in the sunlight streaming through the workshop's openings. One young apprentice, his eyes wide with the wonder of learning, mixed a fresh batch of pigment, the ochre powder sifting through his fingers like sand in a gentle breeze. He brushed it onto a smaller pot, the strokes light and tentative, creating bands of color that echoed the horizons he had seen at dawn. These acts were not hurried. Time in the workshop flowed like the river itself, unhurried and inevitable. The sensory world enveloped them, the cool slip of wet clay under palms, the rhythmic thud of a mallet shaping rims, the faint crackle of the kiln in the distance as it baked the day's creations. Subtle wit surfaced in their shared glances. One potter might quip about a lopsided design resembling a wayward cloud, a light-hearted nod to the imperfections that made each piece uniquely human. Historical finds from sites like Harappa and Lothal reveal glimpses of this artistry, unearthed from layers of earth that have preserved them for thousands of years. Excavations have uncovered shards bearing these same motifs, suggesting that the designs were not random, but part of a sophisticated tradition. For instance, the black on red ware, with its bold contrasts, points to advanced firing techniques that controlled oxygen levels to achieve specific colors, a process that must have involved careful observation of the flame's dance and the clay's transformation. Yet the mystery deepens when we consider the unknowns. Why did certain patterns appear only on specific vessel types, such as storage jars versus decorative bowls? Were they tied to social hierarchies, reserved for elite households, or perhaps linked to seasonal festivals, where pottery played a role in communal rituals? The absence of direct evidence leaves room for gentle speculation, a calming thread in the tapestry of history. In one such find, a nearly intact pot from Harappa displays a series of fish like forms swimming in orderly rows, their scales rendered with meticulous dots of ochre. The potter who created it might have drawn inspiration from the teeming waters of the Indus, where fish leaped in the shallows, their silver flashes caught in the sunlight as he brushed each dot. The pigment's grainy texture under his tool evoked the very scales it depicted, a sensory echo of the natural world. This connection to the environment underscores the design's potential purposes, perhaps as symbols of abundance, ensuring bountiful harvests or safe journeys for traders navigating the river. But why these particular motifs faded from later cultures remains a puzzle, lost in the mists of time that enveloped the Indus Valley as it declined around 1900 BCE. The potters, unaware of the future's gaze, pressed on, their work a meditation in motion. They smoothed edges with damp cloths, the fabric gliding over the clay like a gentle wave, leaving behind a surface as even as the settlement's baked brick floors. The air grew warmer as midday approached, carrying the scent of baking bread from nearby homes, a subtle reminder of the pottery's everyday role. Yet in their designs, there was an artistry that transcended utility, a whisper of something profound. Subtle wit emerged in the way a potter might adjust a pattern mid-stroke, turning a potential flaw into an intentional flourish, as if to say that mystery itself was part of the beauty. As evening fell, the workshops quieted, the potters wiping their hands on rags fragrant with clay residue. The designs they created, now set to dry under the stars, held their secrets close. In the soft night, with the river's murmur as a lullaby, one might ponder the lost knowledge. What stories did these patterns tell to those who first beheld them? The mystery endures, a calming enigma that invites reflection rather than resolution, bridging the ancient world to our own through the simple touch of a brush on clay. And so, as the shadows lengthen and the day's labors fade, we turn our thoughts to what lies beyond these workshops, to the broader tapestry of Harappan life that these vessels once illuminated. Perhaps in the next whisper of history, new light will reveal more of the unseen paths in the hushed glow of a Harappan evening, where the ancient sun dipped behind mud brick walls. An elite home in the heart of the city stirred with quiet elegance. Imagine stepping through a sturdy doorway, crafted from smoothed wood and sealed with clay, into a world of refined simplicity that belied the bustling streets outside. Here, in this sprawling residence of baked bricks and cool courtyards, a family of means unfolded their daily rituals. Far removed from the common throngs, the air carried whispers of bygone eras, as if the very stones held secrets of a civilization that thrived unseen for millennia. The elite of Harappa, those who oversaw trade routes and granaries, dwelled in homes that rose 2 stories high, their walls thick enough to mute the distant hum of the city. Picture the patriarch, a figure of dignified poise, clad in a finely woven tunic of linen dyed in earthy ochres, the fabric soft against his skin from the labor of distant weavers. His wife, equally resplendent in a draped garment adorned with shell beads and carnelian stones, moved with graceful intent through the central courtyard, where the day's light lingered like a gentle caress. These tunics, lightweight and breathable, spoke of affluence, sourced from the fertile plains or bartered from afar, their threads a testament to the interconnected world of the Indus. As twilight deepened, the courtyard transformed into a sanctuary of repose. The family gathered around a low brick platform, its edges worn smooth by generations, where meals were served with deliberate care. Oil lamps, their wicks flickering in terracotta holders, cast a warm, dancing light that played across the faces of those assembled. The flames wavered ever so slightly, their soft glow revealing the subtle gleam of bronze vessels and polished stoneware, arranged with an artistry that hinted at unseen hands. The aroma of spices, cumin and coriander, freshly ground and mingled with the earthiness of lentils, wafted through the air, wrapping the scene in a comforting veil. One might almost hear the faint crackle of the lamps, a rhythmic whisper that soothed the senses, as if the home itself breathed in harmony with its inhabitants. Dining in such a setting was an affair of quiet luxury, where each bite carried the weight of abundance. The elite savored flatbreads baked in clay ovens, their surfaces golden and crisp, paired with stews simmered from grains harvested from the fertile riverbanks. A hint of garlic and ginger infused the air, their pungent notes tempered by the sweetness of dates, evoking a subtle wit in the way flavors danced upon the palate, like an old tale told with a knowing smile. The courtyard's brick floor, cool beneath bare feet, absorbed the day's heat, offering respite as servants, unobtrusive in their movements, poured water from earthen jars, the liquid splashing softly like a lullaby's echo. In this space, opulence lay not in ostentation, but in the careful curation of comforts, a life woven from the finest threads of society. Beyond the courtyard, the home extended into private chambers, each room a haven of thoughtful design. Bedrooms featured raised platforms for sleeping, lined with mats of woven reeds that cradled the body in gentle repose. The air here was tinged with the faint scent of sandalwood, perhaps from a small chest of stored resins, its fragrance lingering like a forgotten dream. Windows, narrow and strategic, allowed breezes to filter through, carrying the distant murmur of the river and the occasional call of a night bird, blending the indoors with the vastness outside. These details, drawn from the careful excavations of sites like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, reveal a people who mastered not just survival, but serenity. Their homes a bulwark against the uncertainties of the world. Yet, amid this tranquility, a mystery lingers, as elusive as the shadows cast by the oil lamps. Artifacts once gracing these elite abodes, intricate seals etched with unknown scripts, beads of lapis, lazuli that might have adorned a neck or wrist, have vanished into the sands of time. Excavations in the 1920 and later decades uncovered fragments. A golden ornament here, a carved ivory there, but many more slipped away, perhaps carried off by ancient floods or buried in layers we have yet to unearth. One ponders, in a detached curiosity, the stories these lost treasures might tell of trade networks stretching to Mesopotamia, or the personal lives of those who held them dear. It is a gentle enigma, not one of loss, but of invitation, urging us to imagine what might have been, like a whisper in the wind that fades before it fully forms. The day's end brought rituals of reflection, where the elite might recline on cushioned benches, their tunics rustling softly as they conversed in low tones. The spice-laden air grew heavier, mingling with the cool night breeze, and the flickering lamps painted patterns on the walls, evoking the play of light on ancient frescoes long since faded. In these moments, subtle wit emerged in the shared glances and murmured anecdotes. Perhaps a light jest about a merchant's tardy caravan, or the peculiarities of a rare import, all delivered with the calm assurance of those who navigated life's currents with ease. Sensory details abounded. The tactile smoothness of a stone seal passed from hand to hand, the auditory hush of water trickling from a household drain, the visual splendor of a wall niche holding a small statue, its form weathered yet enduring. Historical accounts from digs at Harappa speak of such homes as centers of social gravity, where the elite not only dined but deliberated, their decisions rippling through the community like the river's flow. One might expand upon the sensory tapestry. The faint metallic tang of copper tools left in a corner, the earthy aroma of stored grains in clay bins, or the visual rhythm of geometric patterns etched into the bricks, each line a silent nod to the civilization's precision. These elements, preserved in the soil for thousands of years, paint a picture of lives lived in measured opulence, where every detail contributed to a harmonious whole. As the night deepened, the family retired, the lamps dimming to embers that glowed like distant stars. The courtyard, now steeped in shadow, held the echoes of the evening's grace, a reminder of a world that flourished in balance. And yet, in the quiet, one senses a transition, a subtle shift toward the broader tapestry of Harappan life, where such domestic splendors connected to the unseen threads of history. In this elite home, the essence of Harappan society revealed itself not through grand monuments, but through the intimate dance of light and scent, taste and touch. The mystery of the lost artifacts, those vanished relics that might have held scripts or symbols we still decipher, adds a layer of wonder, inviting contemplation without disturbance. As the ancient night enveloped the city, one could almost hear the soft sigh of the Indus winds, carrying forward to stories yet untold. Word count 1,500 in the soft glow of dawn over ancient Harappa, where the Indus River whispered secrets through the mist. The potters of the 3rd millennium BCE stirred from their simple dwellings. Their world was one of quiet rhythm, etched into the earth like the patterns on their clay vessels. a life inferred from the silent testimony of shards and kilns clad in loose tunics of woven fibers, dyed in earthy tones that blended with the dust. They moved with the unhurried grace of those who shaped the very soil beneath their feet. The air carried a faint chill, yielding to the promise of warmth as the sun climbed. And the first birds called gently from the date palms lining the streets. Each day began with the potters rising before the light fully broke, their bodies attuned to the subtle shifts of the seasons. In those early hours, they would step out into the courtyard workshops, where the ground was cool and damp underfoot, a remnant of the night's dew. The men and women, their tunics tied at the waist with cords of twisted reed, gathered around low wooden benches, scattered with tools, simple wooden mallets, smooth stones for smoothing, and coils of rope for handling larger forms. There was a subtle wit in their routine, a knowing nod to the clay's resistance, as if the earth itself played a gentle game, yielding only to patient hands. Kneading the clay became a meditative ritual, the potter's fingers sinking into the cool, pliable mass with a satisfying squelch that echoed softly in the quiet air. Fresh from the riverbanks, the clay arrived in baskets, its moisture holding the memory of the flowing waters, cool and slick against the skin. They worked it methodically, pressing and folding, the material giving way with a wet, rhythmic sound like distant rain on leaves. The warmth of their palms coaxed it into submission, drawing out any hidden grains of sand that might crack a pot later. Their movements fluid and repetitive, a dance that soothed the mind as much as it prepared the medium. One might imagine the clay whispering back, its subtle resistance a reminder of the earth's ancient patience, a witty counterpoint to the potter's steady toil. As the sun rose higher, casting a golden haze over the workshops, the potters shaped their vessels on the slow turning wheels. These were not the hurried spins of later ages, but deliberate rotations, powered by the potter's foot pressing against a simple treadle, the wheel humming with a low, steady vibration that blended with the morning breeze. The clay, now warmed and malleable, rose under their touch like a living thing, the potter's thumbs guiding it into forms wide-mouthed jars for storing grain, slender beakers for water, or bowls etched with geometric patterns that spoke of communal life. Sensory details enveloped the scene, the faint, earthy scent of the clay mingling with the sharper aroma of wood smoke from nearby hearths, the gentle scrape of tools against the surface, and the warmth of the sun on bare arms, a comforting embrace after the cool dawn. Throughout the morning, the workshops buzzed with a calm energy, yet it was never chaotic. Potters worked in pairs or small groups, sharing tools and advice with understated gestures, a raised eyebrow at a lopsided form, a soft chuckle at a minor mishap. The tunics, slightly stained from previous day's work, fluttered lightly in the breeze, their fabric soft against the skin, a practical armor against the dust that settled like fine powder on everything. One potter might pause to wipe sweat from his brow, the salt tang mixing with the clay's mineral scent, while another tested the clay's readiness by pressing it between fingers, feeling its perfect pliability. By midday, as the heat intensified, the focus shifted to the kilns, those great earthen ovens built into the workshop walls. The potters stoked the fires with dried dung and wood, the flames licking up with a warm, inviting glow that promised transformation. The air grew thick with the scent of burning fuel, a woody aroma laced with the acrid hint of smoke, and the kilns radiated a gentle heat that wrapped around the workers like a blanket. Inside, the pots baked slowly, the clay hardening with soft pops and cracks that were as much a part of the process as the kneading. Sensory richness abounded. The radiating warmth on one's face, the low crackle of the fire like a lullaby, and the way the light danced on the kiln's surface, casting flickering shadows that seemed to tell stories of their own. In these moments, the mystery of the unrecorded schedules wove through the day like a faint thread in a tapestry. For while the harapan craft records those excavated seals and standardized tools reveal the precision of their work, the personal rhythms remain elusive, shadows in the archaeological light. How did they decide when to rise or pause for a meal of flatbreads and lentils, seasoned with the subtlest spices from distant trades? Perhaps a potter lingered longer at the wheel on days when the river's song was particularly soothing, or shortened their tasks when clouds gathered, hinting at rain. This enigma, inferred from the alignment of workshops and the wear on tools, adds a layer of intrigue, a gentle puzzle that invites contemplation without resolution. Afternoons brought a slower pace, with potters stepping away to tend to other duties. They might wander to the river to collect more clay, the water cool and silken as it lapped at their feet, or inspect the kilns, feeling the residual warmth that lingered like a memory. The tunics, now dusted with clay particles that sparkled in the sunlight, provided a comforting layer against the breeze. Here, sensory details deepened. The crunch of gravel underfoot as they moved between tasks, the faint taste of salt on the air from the evaporating river, and the soft rustle of leaves overhead, a natural symphony accompanying their labor. Evenings descended with a serene hush, the potters gathering their finished wares for drying or storage. The clay, now transformed into sturdy vessels, was arranged on racks, their surfaces cool to the touch under the fading light. A subtle wit emerged in these quiet hours, as one might jest about a pot that held its shape as stubbornly as the river holds its course. A light-hearted nod to the day's efforts. The warmth of the kilns tapered off, leaving a residual coziness that beckoned rest, and the air filled with the distant sounds of Harappa, settling children's laughter echoing from nearby homes, the low moo of cattle being led to pens. Yet through it all, the unrecorded schedules lingered as a soft mystery, a veil over the potters' lives. Unlike the meticulous seals that that depict animals and symbols, or the uniform bricks that speak of organized society. Their daily timetables remain pieced together from fragments. Did they align their routines with the stars or the cycles of the monsoon? This uncertainty, drawn from historical examples like the standardized weights and measures found in excavations, adds a poetic depth, reminding us that some rhythms are meant to fade into the earth's embrace. As the night deepened, the potters retired, their tunics folded neatly, the day's clay dust settling like a quiet blanket. The workshops fell silent, save for the occasional hoot of an owl, and the mystery of their unseen schedules whispered on, a lullaby for the ages. In this way, the routines of Harappa's potters endure, not in written words, but in the enduring forms they left behind, bridging the past to whatever comes next. In the fading light of a 3rd millennium BCE evening in Harappa, the air grew still and warm, carrying whispers of ancient earth and flame. Along the riverbanks, where the Indus murmured its eternal song, a group of potters gathered around their brick kilns, their simple tunics of woven cotton fluttering gently in the breeze. These artisans, with hands calloused from clay and time, prepared for the ritual of firing, a dance as old as the silt-laden waters themselves. No hurry marked their movements, only a quiet rhythm that echoed the steady pulse of the world around them. The kilns stood as modest monuments, low and rounded structures of sun-baked bricks, stacked with precision, their forms revealed through the excavations at sites like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Each kiln was a testament to ingenuity, its chamber dug partially into the ground to harness the earth's natural insulation, with a firebox at the base and a vent at the top to draw the heat upward. The potters, men and women alike, moved with a serene focus, their tunics dyed in earthy hues of ochre and sienna, draped loosely over their shoulders, offering respite from the day's lingering warmth. They arranged the pottery inside, pots of varying sizes balanced on shelves of broken shards, each piece a vessel born from the river's clay, smoothed and shaped under patient fingers. As twilight deepened, the first flames were kindled, a soft crackling that rose like a lullaby through the smoky air. The wood, gathered from the sparse acacia groves nearby, ignited with a gentle pop and sigh, releasing scents of charring bark and resin that mingled with the damp earthiness of the kiln. One could almost feel the heat building, a warm embrace that spread outward, chasing away the coolness of the night. The potters fed the fire methodically, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow, shadows dancing across their features like playful spirits. There was a subtle wit in their work, a knowing smile perhaps, as if the kiln itself were a capricious companion, demanding just the right coaxing to reveal its secrets. In those moments, the firing process unfolded with the precision of a well-rehearsed tale. Archaeological finds from Harappa suggest these kilns operated as updraft systems, where air was drawn in from below and expelled through the top, allowing for even heating that transformed raw clay into durable wares. The potters stacked their creations carefully, layering them with fuel, and perhaps a scattering of dried dung for a steadier burn, as evidenced by residue on ancient kiln floors. The flames licked upward, their orange hues painting the scene in strokes of warmth, while the air grew thick with the scent of baking clay, a comforting aroma that evoked the essence of creation itself. One potter might pause, wiping sweat from his brow with the edge of his tunic, his eyes reflecting the fire's dance, as if sharing a quiet joke with the flames about the stubbornness of unyielding clay. Sensory details wove through the air like threads in a loom. The crackling of the wood provided a soothing backdrop, each snap a soft punctuation to the night's calm, while the smoke curled lazily skyward, carrying hints of ash and warmth that settled on the skin like a gentle blanket. The potter's breaths came steady and deep, in harmony with the rhythm of the fire, their tunics brushing against the kiln's rough bricks with a faint rustle. In the distance, the Indus flowed on, its waters murmuring approval, and the occasional call of a night bird added a melodic layer to the scene. It was a world where time slowed, where the heat's embrace lulled the senses into a peaceful trance. Yet, amid this tranquility, a mystery lingered, as elusive as the smoke that veiled the stars. The exact methods of firing, passed down through generations in whispers and gestures rather than inscriptions, remain unrecorded in the annals of Harappa. No tablets or seals from the excavations detail the precise temperatures or the subtle adjustments made to the airflow, leaving modern scholars to ponder the gaps. Perhaps the potters mixed secret additives into their fuels, or timed their firings by the moon's phases, techniques lost to the sands that buried their world. This enigma, drawn from the absence in archaeological records, adds a layer of intrigue, a gentle puzzle that invites reflection without demanding answers. One might imagine a potter, his tunic stained with soot, tilting his head as if listening to the kiln's murmurs, a faint smile hinting at knowledge shared only with the fire. As the night progressed, the kilns glowed with a steady warmth, their bricks retaining heat like ancient guardians. The potters monitored the process with practiced eyes, adjusting the vents to control the draft, ensuring that the pottery emerged strong and true. Finds from Harappa reveal vessels fired to high temperatures, their surfaces smoothed and sometimes decorated with geometric patterns, suggesting a mastery that balanced art and utility. The air, now heavy with the mingled scents of smoke and baked earth, created a cocoon of calm, where even the stars seemed to watch in quiet admiration. There was a subtle wit in the way the flames flickered unpredictably, as if teasing the artisans, yet the potters responded with unflappable grace, their tunics swaying like leaves in a breeze. In this setting, the sensory world came alive in layers. The warmth radiated outward, a comforting presence that wrapped around the body, while the soft hiss of the fire blended with the distant rustle of wind through the reeds. One could almost taste the air, tinged with the mineral essence of clay and the woody bitterness of smoke, a flavor that spoke of transformation and endurance. The potter's movements were deliberate, almost meditative, their hands calloused, yet gentle, tending to the flames as one might tend a garden. And in those flames, the mystery deepened. For how did they know when the firing was complete? Was it the change in the fire's hue, from bright orange to a subdued red, or a subtle shift in the air's density? Such questions, inspired by the archaeological silence, wove a thread of wonder into the narrative, reminding one of the vast unknowns that cloak the past. As hours passed, the kilns settled into a rhythmic hum, their fires burning low and even. The potters, their tunics now dusted with ash, stepped back to observe, their faces serene in the dimming light. Historical examples from similar sites, like the kiln remnants at Lothal, underscore the consistency of these techniques across the Indus Valley, where pottery was not merely functional, but a reflection of communal life. Yet the unrecorded elements, the precise fuel mixtures, or the oral traditions guiding the process, lend an air of enigma, a subtle puzzle that enchants rather than frustrates. The scene unfolded like a lullaby, each crackle and sigh drawing the listener deeper into repose. Eventually, as the fires ebbed and the pottery cooled within the kilns, the potters began to disperse, their work done for the night. The smoky air lingered, a final embrace before the dawn, carrying with it the promise of new creations. In this calm conclusion, one might reflect on the enduring legacy of these ancient artisans, their techniques a bridge to mysteries yet unsolved. And as the stars faded with the approaching light, the story of Harappa's potters gently transitions to the next whisper of history, where other tales await in the quiet folds of time. Word count 1502. In the soft glow of a Harappan dawn, where the ancient river's whisper mingled with the first light, the potters of the Indus Valley stirred in their workshops, clad in simple tunics of woven linen, dyed in earthy hues of ochre and clay. They moved with a rhythm as old as the riverbanks themselves. These artisans, descendants of a civilization that thrived in the 3rd millennium BCE, gathered their tools with careful hands, preparing for the day's quiet labor. The air carried a faint scent of damp earth and sun-warmed stone, a gentle prelude to the meticulous work ahead. Each potter selected their implements from wooden racks along the workshop walls, tools forged from the finest materials the valley offered. There were chert blades, sharp as whispers, and grinding stones smoothed by generations of use. As one potter, his tunic sleeves rolled to reveal sun-browned arms, took up a whetstone, he settled onto a low stool carved from local teak. The stone felt cool and heavy in his palm, its surface etched with the faint grooves of past sharpenings. He drew the blade across it with slow, deliberate strokes, producing a sound like distant rain. On leaves a soft, rhythmic shush that filled the room without intruding on the peace around him. Others worked in similar silence, their movements a dance of preservation. The workshops, nestled in the heart of Harappa's bustling quarter, were simple structures of mud, brick, and timber, their roofs thatched to let in slivers of sunlight. Dust from the clay lingered in the air, a fine mist that caught the light and sparkled like forgotten stars. It settled on their tunics, leaving faint patterns that spoke of hours spent in devotion to their craft. One woman, her tunic tied at the waist with a cord of twisted fibers, paused to inspect a bone-handled scraper. She ran her fingers along its edge, feeling for imperfections, her touch as light as a breeze over water. The tool's handle, polished from years of handling, held the warmth of her skin, a subtle reminder of the bond between maker and instrument. In these moments, the potters embodied the essence of their civilization's ingenuity, drawing from archaeological treasures unearthed in modern times. Excavations at sites like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro have revealed caches of such tools, preserved in the dry earth for millennia. The grinding stones, often made from fine-grained sandstone, were essential for maintaining the edges of blades and scrapers, ensuring they remained precise for shaping clay vessels. One such stone, discovered in a workshop context, bore the marks of repeated use, its surface worn into a perfect curve that fit the hand like a second skin. The potters applied a paste of water and fine grit to the stone, creating a slurry that enhanced the sharpening process. As the blade met the stone, a gentle friction released a scent of wet mineral, mingling with the earthy aroma of the workshop floor. The process was not hurried. It unfolded with a lullaby's cadence, each stroke a verse in an unspoken song. A young apprentice, his tunic still crisp from the morning wash, watched closely as his mentor demonstrated the art. The older man, lines of wisdom etched on his face like the patterns on a pottery shard, explained through gestures rather than words. He tilted the blade at just the right angle, the metal catching the light in a soft gleam. The sound was soothing, a low hum that echoed the river's flow outside, blending with the occasional call of a distant bird. Sensory memories wove through their work. The cool slip of the blade under testing fingers, the faint taste of dust on the tongue when a breath was drawn too deeply. The visual tapestry of tools arranged in orderly rows, their forms both functional and elegant. Yet, amid this serene routine, a quiet mystery lingered, as elusive as the shadows in the workshop corners. The designs of these tools, so advanced for their time, have puzzled scholars who study the Indus Valley's remnants. Artifacts from Harappan sites show blades with edges honed to a fineness that modern analysis struggles to replicate, their manufacturing techniques lost to the sands of time. How did these potters achieve such precision without the metals or methods we take for granted today? Perhaps they drew from secret knowledge passed down through oral traditions, whispered in the dim light of evening gatherings. One excavated tool, a small flint knife with intricate flaking, suggests a level of craftsmanship that defies simple explanation. Its edge, examined under magnification, reveals patterns that hint at specialized grinding compounds. Now forgotten, this enigma adds a layer of subtle intrigue to the potter's world, a gentle puzzle that invites contemplation rather than alarm. As the morning wore on, the potters continued their tasks, their tunics now dusted with the fine particles of their labor. They oiled wooden handles with extracts from local seeds, the oil's rich, nutty scent filling the air like a comforting embrace. The feel of the oil, slick and warm, brought a moment's pause, allowing the artisans to appreciate the tool's resilience. Historical records, inferred from archaeological digs, indicate that such maintenance was crucial for longevity. A well-sharpened blade could serve for seasons, reducing the need for new creations and honoring the resources of the valley. In one instance, a cache of tools found at a Harappan site included scrapers with handles reinforced by organic bindings, their preservation speaking to the potter's foresight. The workshops hummed with this quiet efficiency, the sensory details painting a vivid picture. The visual play of light on polished surfaces, the auditory rhythm of stone against metal, the tactile satisfaction of a perfectly honed edge. Even the subtlest wit emerged in their methods, as if the tools themselves held a knowing smile, outlasting the hands that wielded them. One potter might chuckle inwardly at how a stubborn blade yielded only after patient coaxing, a reminder that even in the ancient world, persistence was its own reward. Through it all, the potters maintained a detached poise, their focus unwavering. No grim tales intruded here. Any challenges, like a tool's gradual wear, were met with calm acceptance, their consequences woven into the fabric of daily life. The mystery of the lost designs only enhanced this tranquility, offering a soothing enigma for the mind to wander over, much like the river's meandering path. As the sun climbed higher, casting longer shadows across the workshop floors, the potters set aside their newly sharpened tools, ready for the tasks ahead. Yet, in the back of their thoughts, the whisper of those vanished techniques lingered, a bridge to mysteries yet unexplored. And so, with the day's work prepared, their story gently fades, leading toward the next chapter of Harappa's enduring legacy. In the gentle glow of a setting sun over ancient Harappa, the potters of the Indus Valley gathered as shadows lengthened across their modest village. Clad in simple tunics of woven cotton, dyed in earthy hues of ochre and clay, they moved with the quiet rhythm of a day well spent. The air carried the faint, comforting scent of damp earth from their workshops, mingling with the first whispers of evening meals. Here, amid the orderly grid of mud brick homes, bonds formed not through grand decrees or etched tablets, but in the subtle exchanges of shared labor and simple feasts, ties that archaeology hints at but never fully unveils. The potters, sturdy figures with hands calloused from shaping vessels on slow-turning wheels, settled around low hearths where flames danced lazily. A woman in a tunic fringed with simple beads stirred a pot of lentils. The soft hiss of simmering grains punctuating the air like a distant river's murmur. Nearby, a man broke off pieces of flatbread, its edges crisping golden against the embers, releasing a warm, nutty aroma that wove through the gathering like an invisible thread. They sat in a loose circle, their tunics brushing against the cool, packed earth. As the day's heat faded into a soothing breeze, carrying hints of wild jasmine from the outskirts, conversations unfolded in murmurs, voices low and melodic, like the rustle of palm fronds in a light wind. One potter, his tunic sleeves rolled to reveal forearms etched with faint clay stains, spoke of a particularly fine jar he had crafted that morning, its curves inspired by the meandering Indus. Another nodded, her eyes crinkling in a smile as she passed a bowl of spiced yogurt, its creamy tang cutting through the richness of roasted grains. There was a subtle wit in their exchanges, a quiet humor that surfaced in the way they teased one another over a misshapen pot, or a kiln that smoked too eagerly. As unpredictable as the river's bend, one might quip, drawing soft chuckles that rippled through the group like water over stones. These gatherings were the heartbeat of their community, a web of connections strengthened by the shared toil of their craft. In Harappa's third millennium world, potters formed the backbone of daily life, their creations urns for storing grain, plates for family meals, and vessels for trade binding villages together. Historical records, pieced from the silent testimony of excavated sites like Mohenjo-Daro, reveal a society where such artisans lived in clustered neighborhoods, their homes arranged in neat blocks that spoke of cooperation and mutual reliance. Yet in these meals, the bonds went deeper, woven into gestures as unassuming as the passing of a shared ladle or the adjustment of a tunic against the cooling night air. As the flatbreads sizzled softly on flat stones, their golden surfaces bubbling with heat, the potters leaned in, their faces illuminated by the hearth's warm light. The scent of cumin and garlic wafted upward, blending with the earthy perfume of clay dust still clinging to their clothes, creating a cocoon of familiarity. One elder, his tunic faded from years of wear, recounted tales of distant markets where their pots fetched fine beads in return, his words carrying a lullaby like cadence that eased the younger ones into relaxed postures. There was no rush, no clamor. Time here flowed like the steady current of the river, allowing space for these unwritten friendships to flourish in the spaces between words. Yet amid this serenity, a quiet mystery lingered, as elusive as the stars emerging in the twilight sky. What depths of affection or loyalty did these potters hold for one another? Friendships etched not in stone or script, but in the everyday acts of sharing a meal or mending a wheel. Harappan's social records, drawn from the orderly layout of their cities and the uniformity of their artifacts, offer glimpses but no clear answers. Unlike the grand epics of later civilizations, no tablets detail the warmth of a potter's laugh or the comfort of a companion's presence. It is a mystery that archaeology teases with evidence of communal living clusters of homes with shared courtyards, tools left in common spaces, but leaves us to ponder in solitude, perhaps in the soft chatter around the hearth. Bonds formed that outlasted the fragile pottery they created, enduring as unseen threads in the fabric of their world. The meal progressed with a gentle pace, each bite savored in the fading light. A child, tugging at the edge of a tunic, reached for a piece of bread, its surface still warm and yielding. The crunch, a satisfying counterpoint to the creamy lentils. The potter's hands, adept at molding clay, now handled food with the same care, fingers tracing the rim of a bowl as if it were one of their own creations. Scents of roasted sesame seeds mingled with the night air, evoking memories of harvests past, when families worked side by side in the fields before retreating to these village circles. Subtle wit emerged in their stories, like the tale of a pot that survived a kiln mishap only to crack at a trader's stall, drawing nods and quiet smiles that spoke of resilience and shared understanding. In this corner of Harappa, community bonds were not born of edicts or hierarchies, but from the simple necessity of life along the river. Historical examples from sites like Harappa itself show standardized weights and measures, suggesting a network of trust among artisans who traded their wares far and wide. Potters might have exchanged techniques over these meals, their tunics brushing as they demonstrated a new way to fire a vessel. The air filled with the faint, acrid tang of smoke from the hearths. Such interactions fostered a quiet solidarity, where one family's surplus of grain could ease another's lean season, all without the need for written contracts. The mystery deepened here. How did these unspoken alliances weather the uncertainties of ancient life, from fluctuating river levels to the occasional scarcity that archaeological layers hint at through varying artifact densities? As the stars multiplied overhead, the potters lingered, their tunics now dusted with crumbs, and the faint glow of embers reflecting in their eyes. The soft chatter continued, a soothing backdrop to the night. Sounds the distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves. One might describe the feel of cool clay under fingertips, its smoothness a metaphor for the enduring nature of their friendships, while another added a witty aside about how even the most perfectly shaped pot could hide a flaw, much like the hidden depths of human connections. These moments, preserved only in the echoes of excavated hearths and communal spaces, invite us to imagine the warmth that sustained them through generations. Yet the enigma of unwritten friendships persists, a subtle undercurrent in the archaeological narrative. In the absence of texts, we rely on the patterns of their settlements' rows of houses with shared walls, suggesting proximity and interdependence to infer the strength of these ties. Perhaps in the sharing of a meal, a glance across the fire spoke volumes, forging alliances that helped navigate the challenges of their era. Historical accuracy demands we acknowledge this. The Indus Valley society, as revealed through seals and artifacts, was one of remarkable equality and cooperation, where potters likely played a vital role in maintaining social harmony. The night deepened, the air growing cooler against their skin, and the potters began to rise, brushing off their tunics with practiced hands. The last bites of flatbread, still faintly warm, were savored in silence, the scents lingering like a fond memory. As they dispersed to their homes, the bonds remained, invisible yet palpable, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for connection in the face of time's erasure. And so, from this quiet village scene, we turn toward the broader tapestry of Harappan life, where such everyday threads weave into the larger story of a civilization's enduring legacy. In the hushed glow of a Harappan dawn, where the ancient city stirred gently under a sky streaked with soft pastels, the potters of the 3rd millennium BCE rose to their rhythms. These artisans, clad in simple tunics of woven fibers that brushed against their skin like whispers of river reeds, moved with a quiet purpose through the labyrinth of mud brick streets. Their hands, calloused yet reverent, cradled figures shaped from the earth's own clay, small effigies of animals and deities, molded in the flickering light of oil lamps that cast long, dancing shadows on the walls. This was no ordinary craft. It was an act of devotion, a thread in the tapestry of rituals that bound the potters to the unseen forces of their world. The shrines awaited them, nestled in the corners of the great citadel or along the banks of the Indus, where the air carried the faint, earthy scent of damp soil mingled with the smoky tendrils of incense. These offerings were not hurried gestures, but measured ceremonies, performed with a serenity that seemed to echo the steady flow of the river itself. Picture the potters approaching, their tunics swaying softly in the breeze, the clay figures held aloft like fragile promises. The incense, burned from resins gathered from distant hills, released a warm, resinous aroma that enveloped the scene, wrapping around the senses like a comforting veil. It was a scent that spoke of continuity, of generations past who had stood in these very spots, their chants rising like mist from the water. Soft voices filled the air, murmuring chants in a language lost to time, their tones low and melodic, akin to a lullaby that soothed the soul even as it invoked the divine. The potters would kneel, placing the clay figures at the base of carved stone altars, perhaps a seal-stamped depiction of a horned deity, or a simple mound adorned with shells. These rituals were steeped in the mystery of the unwritten, for the Harappans left no scrolls or inscriptions to detail their beliefs. only the silent testimony of their artifacts. One might imagine the gentle hum of these chants, a rhythmic cadence that blended with the distant calls of birds and the rustle of leaves, creating a symphony of tranquility that belied the profound questions they raised. What secrets did these offerings hold? Were they pleas for bountiful harvests, protections against the floods that could swell the Indus, or expressions of gratitude for the clay that yielded so readily to human hands? In those moments, the potter's world was a realm of sensory harmony. The warmth of the sun on their skin contrasted with the cool touch of the clay, still moist from the riverbed, its texture smooth and yielding under their fingers. As they arranged the figures, the faint crackle of incense sticks added a subtle crackling note to the air, like distant thunder softened by distance. These practices drew from the deeper well of Harappan's spirituality, where evidence from excavated sites, such as the seals unearthed at Mohenjo-Daro, hints at a reverence for fertility and nature. The potters, after all, were not mere creators. They were intermediaries, shaping the raw materials of the earth into vessels of the sacred. Yet, even in this gentle act, there lingered a subtle wit to their devotion, a quiet irony in how the very clay they offered could one day return to the soil, reminding all that life and ritual were but fleeting forms. As the sun climbed higher, casting a golden hue over the city, the ceremonies would deepen. The potters might gather in small groups, their tunics dusted with the fine particles of clay that sparkled like stars in the light, exchanging soft words that wove through the chants. The air grew thicker with the scent of burning offerings, perhaps herbs or grains, placed alongside the figures, creating a heady mixture that evoked the earth's abundance. One could almost feel the warmth radiating from the altars, where small fires flickered, their flames licking at the edges of the clay with a gentle persistence. These rituals, drawn from the archaeological record of Harappan religious life, emphasized a connection to the natural world, as seen in the figurines that often depicted animals or abstract symbols of growth. The potter's offerings were precise, each figure crafted with an eye for balance and form, reflecting the disciplined society that thrived in Harappa's orderly streets. Yet, amid this calm, the mystery persisted. The unwritten rituals veiled themselves in enigma, much like the undeciphered script on their seals, which scholars ponder to this day. What precise words accompanied the chants? Were there hidden meanings in the way the figures were positioned, their forms aligned with the stars or the river's curve? The potters moved through these uncertainties with a graceful acceptance, their actions a testament to faith without documentation. In the soft light, one might catch a glimpse of subtle humor in the scene. A potter pausing to adjust a lopsided figure, his expression one of fond amusement, as if sharing a private joke with the divine. This wit, understated and warm, underscored the human element in their spirituality, reminding that even in reverence, life held its lighter shades. The day would progress, and the potters returned to their workshops. But the essence of the rituals lingered. The smoky trails of incense faded slowly, leaving behind a faint, lingering fragrance that mingled with the everyday sense of baking, bread, and flowing water. Sounds of the city filtered in the distant hum of barter in the markets, the splash of children playing by the wells. But for the potters, the morning's devotion remained a quiet anchor. Historical accounts, pieced together from excavations at sites like Harappa itself, reveal that such practices were integral to daily life, with shrines integrated into the urban fabric, suggesting a seamless blend of the sacred and the mundane. The clay figures, often found in ritual contexts, speak of a people who honored the cycles of nature, their offerings a bridge between the tangible and the ethereal. As evening approached, the potters might reconvene at the shrines, their tunics now bearing the marks of the day's labor, the clay dust settling like a second skin. The chants resumed, softer now, ebbing like the tide, with the incense weaving new layers of scent, perhaps a hint of sweet resins that evoked the memory of ripe fruits or blooming flowers. The mystery of these unwritten rites deepened with the shadows, inviting reflection on what was left unsaid. Why were certain figures chosen? Their forms echoing motifs from distant trade routes. The air grew cooler, carrying the gentle rustle of wind through the date palms, and the potters' movements took on a dreamlike quality, as if they were part of an eternal dance. In this lullaby of ancient devotion, one could sense the subtle interplay of human ingenuity and divine mystery. The potters, through their offerings, preserved a legacy that time has only partially unveiled. Their rituals, a gentle reminder of the world's impermanence. Yet, even as the stars began to prick the night sky, a quiet wit lingered in the air, the idea that these unwritten practices, for all their enigma, might simply be the earth's way of whispering back to those who shaped it. And so, as the last chants faded into the quiet night, the story of the potter's faith flows onward, leading us toward the broader tapestry of Harappan life that awaits exploration. In the hushed twilight of ancient Harappa, where the great river murmured secrets to the clay-rich earth, a group of potters gathered in their modest homes, clad in simple tunics of woven cotton, dyed in earthy hues that blended with the dust of their craft. They moved with the quiet rhythm of those who shaped the world with their hands. The air carried a faint, comforting warmth, laced with the scent of baking bricks and the subtle steam of herbs simmering over low flames. These men and women, their skin kissed by the sun and marked by years at the wheel, turned to age-old practices to tend their well-being. Practices born from the land itself in the third millennium before the Common Era. The potters' homes, nestled amid the orderly grid of Harappa's streets, were sanctuaries of simple stone and mud brick, their roofs thatched to hold the cool night air. Here, amid the soft glow of oil lamps that flickered like distant stars, they prepared remedies drawn from the surrounding fields and hills. One might crush leaves of the neem tree, its bitter aroma mingling with the day's lingering dust, to soothe the irritations that came from breathing in the fine particles of clay. The process was gentle, almost meditative, as fingers, calloused yet careful, ground the herbs in shallow bowls. A wisp of steam rose from a pot of boiling water, infused with tulsi and ginger, its vapors wrapping around the room like a tender embrace, easing the chest and clearing the mind. In those quiet evenings, the potters sat cross-legged on woven mats, their tunics draping loosely over tired limbs, sharing knowledge passed down through generations. The air grew thick with the earthy perfume of crushed marigold petals mixed with honey, a balm for minor wounds that often dotted their hands from the day's labors. One elder, her voice a soft lull like the river's flow, would whisper of how these plants were chosen not by chance, but by the wisdom etched in Harappan seals and tablets, artifacts that hinted at a deep understanding of nature's gifts. The steam from their brews curled upward, carrying with it a subtle wit, how these humble leaves, overlooked by the mighty, held more power than the grandest citadel walls. As the night deepened, the potters turned to infusions of wild mint and fennel, their scents weaving through the room like threads in a tapestry. The dusty air, heavy from the day's work, softened under the herbal haze, each breath a reminder of the balance they sought. They applied poultices of aloe and turmeric to aching joints, the cool gel a soothing whisper against warm skin, drawing from the fertile plains that archaeologists later uncovered in sites like Mohenjo-Daro. These practices, evident in the terracotta figurines and botanical remains found in ancient hearths, spoke of a civilization that revered the healing arts as much as their famed urban planning. Yet there was a gentle rhythm to their routines, one that invited rest rather than exertion. A potter might recline against a cushion of stuffed reeds, inhaling the steam from a eucalyptus brew, its clean, sharp fragrance cutting through the day's fatigue. The room filled with the soft crackle of the fire, a sound as reassuring as a heartbeat, while shadows danced on the walls like playful spirits. In these moments, they reflected on how the herbs not only mended the body, but also knit the community. For knowledge was shared in murmurs over shared meals of barley and lentils, seasoned with the very plants that healed them. The mystery of lost remedy recipes added a layer of quiet intrigue to their evenings, a subtle enigma that lingered like the last light of dusk. Whispers told of ancient formulations, perhaps inscribed on perishable materials that time had claimed, recipes that combined rare roots and flowers in ways now forgotten. Archaeologists, sifting through the ruins centuries later, found hints in the residues of pottery vessels, traces of medicinal compounds that suggested remedies for ailments we can only imagine. One such recipe, possibly for a tea of amla and ashwagandha to bolster strength, was said to have been guarded by the potter's elders. Its exact proportions, a secret passed in hushed tones, yet as the ages turned, these formulas faded into the sands, leaving behind a tantalizing void. What if those lost blends held keys to resilience against the harsh seasonal winds that swept the Indus plains? The thought brought a faint smile, a witty nod to how even the most careful guardians could not outwit time's gentle erasure. In the dim light, another potter might prepare a rinse of rosehip and lavender, its floral notes drifting like a lullaby through the air, to calm the spirits after long hours bent over the wheel. The sensory world around them was rich and immersive. The cool touch of clay-dampened fingers now eased by the warm infusion, the faint grit of ground herbs underfoot, the rhythmic drip of water from a storage jar echoing like a distant drum. These details, drawn from the archaeological tapestry of Harappa, painted a picture of a people who wove health into the fabric of daily life, not as a chore, but as a harmonious extension of their existence. As the night wore on, they experimented with blends of coriander and cumin seeds, roasting them lightly to release an aroma that filled the home like a warm embrace, aiding digestion after modest meals. The potter's tunics, now loosened for comfort, rustled softly as they moved, each gesture deliberate and unhurried. Sensory memories lingered, the slight sting of peppermint on the tongue, the earthy aftertaste of mullein leaves steeped for respiratory ease, all grounded in the evidence of plant remains excavated from Harappan sites. These practices were not mere superstition, but informed traditions, as seen in the standardized weights and measures that suggested a society with precise knowledge of quantities, perhaps applied to their herbal preparations. Yet the lost recipes wove a thread of wonder through their stories. Imagine a formulation for a balm of sesame oil and frankincense, its resinous scent evoking distant trade routes, now vanished from record, or a decoction of holy basil and black pepper, meant to ward off the chills of the monsoon, its spicy warmth a comforting shield. These mysteries, subtle and unassuming, hinted at a deeper legacy, one that archaeologists pieced together from fragments, pollen grains in ancient drains, impressions of leaves on pottery. The potters themselves might have chuckled softly at the irony, how their most potent secrets, meant to endure, slipped away like smoke from their lamps. In the quiet hours before sleep, they applied compresses of comfrey and calendula, the herb's moist heat seeping into weary muscles, their scents blending into a symphony of relief. The air grew still, heavy with the promise of rest, as the potters reclined, their tunics soft against the mats. Each breath drew in the mingled fragrances, a reminder of the world's gentle cycles. Historical echoes from the orderly drains of Harappa that spoke of hygiene reinforced these practices, showing a civilization attuned to well-being. As dawn's first light crept in, the potters stirred, their health rituals a bridge to the new day. But for now, in the embrace of night, rested, the mystery of those lost recipes lingering like a half-remembered dream, inviting reflection on what might yet be rediscovered. And so, as the stars faded, one might ponder the next chapter, where the threads of their world weave into broader tales. Word count 1,500 in the warm glow of a Harappan dawn, where the ancient city stirred with the quiet rhythm of earth and water. Young children in simple tunics stepped lightly into the pottery workshops, their small forms, clad in coarse linen dyed the color of riverbed clay, moved through the low doorways like whispers carried on the breeze. These were the potter's offspring, born into a world of molded forms and silent traditions, their days woven into the fabric of creation. In 3rd millennium BCE, Indus Valley life, the children, no taller than the workbenches that lined the earthen floors, bore their tasks with a gentle determination that belied their years. Often they were seen carrying baskets of fresh clay, scooped from the nearby riverbanks, where the Indus flowed in its eternal murmur. The clay, cool and pliable under their fingers, left trails of dampness on their tunics, forming soft patches that clung like second skin. Their footsteps padded softly against the packed dirt, a faint patter that echoed through the workshop's dim light, mingling with the distant calls of birds settling into the morning air. Each child gripped the handles of their woven carriers, the weight balanced just so, as if the earth itself had taught them the art of equilibrium from their first steps. In these workshops, nestled amid the orderly streets of Harappa, the roles of these young ones were as essential as the potter's wheel itself. Archaeological traces from the great cities suggest that children assisted in the initial stages of pottery production, their small hands ideal for tasks requiring delicacy and precision. They fetched the raw materials, their muddy fingers tracing patterns in the clay even as they transported it, perhaps shaping impromptu figures along the way, a subtle wit in their play. For what child could resist molding a tiny animal from the excess? The air carried the earthy scent of wet soil, mixed with the faint, smoky tang of fired kilns in the distance, an aroma that wrapped around them like a familiar blanket. As they moved, the soft rustle of their tunics against their skin provided a rhythmic counterpoint to the steady thump of the potter's tools, creating a symphony of creation that felt almost lullaby-like in its repetition. Yet, beyond these visible duties, the children likely played parts in subtler processes, inferred from the remnants of Harappan society, uncovered in excavations. Seals and artifacts depict figures that could be youths engaged in preparatory work, such as sifting clay or mixing it with water to achieve the perfect consistency. One might imagine a child kneeling by a shallow basin, the water's surface rippling gently as they stirred, the cool liquid seeping between their toes where they stood barefoot on the workshop's cool stone slabs. The sensation of the clay's grains, fine as whispers, sliding through their palms, offered a tactile lesson in the craft. teaching resilience and patience through touch alone. These roles, drawn from social records, etched in the very layout of Harapan homes and workshops, highlight how children were not mere helpers, but apprentices in a lineage of skill, passed down through generations. The mystery of unrecorded child tasks adds a layer of quiet intrigue to this ancient tableau, while excavations at sites like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro reveal tools and structures that speak of organized labor. The specifics of what these young ones did in the shadows of daily work remain elusive, like faint echoes fading into the wind. Perhaps they tended to the smaller fires that kept the clay moist, their faces warmed by the gentle heat as flames danced with a soft flicker. Or maybe they polished the drying pots with feathers. The feathers' downy touch leaving no mark, but a subtle sheen. This enigma, preserved in the gaps of history, hints at tasks that were too mundane or integral to be noted in the durable seals and tablets that have survived. It is a mystery wrapped in the sensory details of their world, the cool breeze that dried the sweat on their brows, the faint grit under their nails that spoke of unseen efforts, and the rhythmic hum of the workshop that lulled them into a state of focused calm. In the gentle light filtering through reed mats hung over windows, the children's contributions extended to the finer aspects of pottery preparation. They might have been the ones to select the best clay nodules, their keen eyes spotting the subtle differences in texture and color that an adult's gaze might overlook. The clay's surface, smooth and yielding, invited their exploration, and as they carried it, the weight pressed lightly against their chests, a comforting pressure that grounded them in their purpose. One can almost hear the soft sighs of contentment as they worked, the air filled with the earthy perfume of the material, and the distant trickle of water from irrigation channels outside. Their tunics, now streaked with the clay's embrace, swung with each step, a visual reminder of their role in the cycle of creation. Historical accounts, pieced together from the orderly urban planning and standardized weights found in Harapan sites, indicate that such involvement was not arbitrary, but a structured part of family dynamics. Children in potter families likely learned through observation and imitation. Their small tunics, a uniform of sorts, in this microcosm of industry. The feel of the clay, slick and cool at first touch, gradually warming in their hands, offered a sensory education that words could not convey. Subtle wit emerged in their methods. A child might playfully shape a lump into a whimsical form before it was properly used. A secret smile hidden behind the seriousness of the task, yet the unrecorded elements persist a mystery in the way their involvement might have included seasonal adaptations, such as gathering special clays during monsoons when the rivers swelled. The rains patter on rooftops, providing a soothing backdrop to their efforts as the sun climbed higher, casting longer shadows across the workshop floors. The children's roles blended seamlessly into the broader tapestry of Harappan craftsmanship. They carried not just clay, but the legacy of their ancestors, their soft footsteps, a testament to the enduring spirit of innovation. The mystery of their uncharted duties lingers, a gentle puzzle that invites contemplation, much like the faint outline of a child's handprint found on an ancient artifact, preserved for millennia. In these details, one senses the calm continuity of life, where every grain of clay told a story waiting to be uncovered. The air grew heavier with the day's warmth, the children's tasks ebbing into the quiet afternoon as the workshops paused in their rhythm. Yet beyond the pottery, the vast expanse of Harappan society beckoned, with whispers of other trades and traditions on the horizon, drawing us toward what comes next. In the hushed heart of ancient Harappa, where the 3rd millennium BCE unfolded like a quiet river through time, the potter's workshop stood as a sanctuary of earth and craft. Mudbrick sheds, their walls baked under the sun's gentle gaze, huddled together in a neat row along the settlement's edge, away from the bustling streets. Here, amid the soft whisper of the wind, a group of potters moved with the rhythm of the seasons, their simple tunics of coarse linen draping over their forms like whispers of the dawn. The air carried the faint, earthy scent of damp clay, mingling with the distant hum of the city, creating a lull that soothed the soul, even as hands shaped the raw stuff of the world. Each potter, sturdy and unassuming, began their day as the first light filtered through the shed's narrow openings, casting long shadows that danced like sleepy spirits on the packed earth floor. They wore their tunics loosely, the fabric tied at the waist with a simple cord, allowing ease of movement as they knelt or sat before their wheels. The wheels themselves were modest marvels, wooden contraptions turned by hand or foot, their axles creaking softly like the sigh of an old friend settling into a chair. This sound, a gentle rhythm that rose and fell, wove through the air, inviting a sense of peace to settle over the workspace. As one potter pressed his palms into a lump of clay, feeling its cool, yielding texture, the wheel spun steadily, the clay yielding to his touch like a dream taking form. The sheds were simple structures, their mudbricks stacked with the precision that defined Harappan life, each one a testament to the civilization's unerring hand. Inside, shelves lined the walls, holding half-formed vessels and tools of smoothed stone and bone, their surfaces dusted with a fine layer of clay particles that glittered faintly in the light. The potters worked in a quiet symphony, their breaths steady and measured, as if harmonizing with the wheel's creak. One might lean forward, his fingers tracing spirals into the wet clay, the material squelching softly under his touch, releasing a scent that evoked the riverbeds where the clay was gathered. It was a smell of renewal, of the Indus's fertile banks, carrying hints of silt and water that lingered in the air like a distant memory. As the wheels turned, the potter's hands moved with an almost meditative grace, shaping pots that would hold water, store grain, or grace the tables of families across the city. A young apprentice, his tunic sleeves rolled up to reveal sun-kissed arms, watched intently as his elder guided him. Feel the clay's pulse, the elder might murmur, his voice a low, soothing cadence. Let it speak to you as the river speaks to the land. The clay dust rose in delicate clouds, settling on their skin like a fine mist, its texture soft and powdery, leaving a trail of pale marks on their tunics. In these moments, the workshop became a world unto itself, where the outside clamor faded, replaced by the tactile poetry of creation. Yet, woven into this serene tapestry was a subtle mystery, one that whispered through the ages like a half-forgotten lullaby. The designs etched into the pots intricate patterns of lines and motifs, perhaps symbols of the unseen world, remained an enigma, their meanings lost to time. Excavations in later centuries revealed workshops much like this one, with pottery bearing stamps and seals that hinted at a sophisticated system of trade and symbolism. But what stories did these designs tell? Did they map the stars, as some scholars ponder, or encode rituals known only to the Potter's Guild? The mystery lay not in grand dramas, but in the quiet absence, a gentle puzzle that invited contemplation rather than urgency. One potter might pause, his fingers still damp with clay, gazing at a freshly inscribed pot, wondering if the pattern echoed ancient tales of the floods that shaped their land. A subtle wit in the way the designs seemed to tease the eye with their symmetry. The process of shaping a pot was a dance of patience and precision, each step unfolding like a slow breath. First, the clay was kneaded on a low wooden board, its cool mass warming under the potter's hands, the faint grit of sand adding a satisfying resistance. Then onto the wheel it went, centered with a gentle spin, the creaking axle providing a rhythmic backdrop that lulled the mind. As the wheel gained speed, the potter's fingers dipped into a bowl of water, the liquid cool and clear, drawing ripples that mirrored the pot's emerging form. The water mixed with the clay, creating a slick surface that allowed the hands to glide, shaping curves and necks with effortless flow. All the while, the air filled with the soft patter of droplets falling back into the bowl, a sound as comforting as rain on leaves. Harappan excavation reports from sites like Mohenjo-Daro speak of such workshops, revealing standardized tools and pottery that suggest a shared knowledge passed down through generations. The potter's sheds, often found in clusters near water sources, were equipped with kilns that glowed with a steady, warming heat, their fires fed by dried dung and wood. The heat radiated gently, carrying the scent of baking clay, a earthy aroma that mingled with the dust to create an atmosphere of quiet industry. In one such report, fragments of pottery wheels were uncovered, their wear patterns indicating hours of use, much like the ones here in Harappa. These findings paint a picture of a society where craft was not mere labor, but a harmonious extension of life itself, each pot a vessel of continuity. As the day progressed, the potters might share a moment of respite, sitting on low stools with cups of diluted barley water. Its mild, grainy taste, a simple pleasure. The sunlight filtered through the shed's roof, casting a warm glow that highlighted the dust motes dancing in the air, each particle a tiny spark in the light. Here, in this calm enclave, the mystery of the lost designs took on a poetic quality, a subtle enigma that added depth to their work. Perhaps, in the faint impressions left on the clay, lay clues to a forgotten language, one that spoke of the Indus's rhythms and the potter's unspoken bond with the earth. It was a mystery that endured, not with the sharpness of a riddle, but with the soft persistence of a dream, inviting one to ponder without haste. The kilns, positioned at the back of the sheds, hummed with a low, steady warmth, their fires carefully tended to avoid cracks in the pottery. The heat was a gentle embrace, not the fierce blaze of a forge, allowing the pots to harden slowly, their surfaces